Kombonation, it is I, grown B. And today I have with me, well, there's actually no reason for me to be on a particular screen, but I'm going to do it anyway. There we go. Kombonation, it is I, grown B, bringing you another revisiting of the Arrowverse. Here we are with season 3 of Black Lightning. Technically, this is going to be the last revisiting because I think anytime, probably the next couple of times that we cover Black Lightning, um, I expect that this probably going to be during this season. So maybe reviewing a couple of episodes at a time or something like that. So we'll just kind of see how that goes. But right now, we're still in the revisiting stage, going back into the past with Batman 123 Rock. How have you been doing, brother?
Been doing all right. How about you?
I'm doing excellent this evening. Finally back to being in my element. I've been jumping back and forth. I think the last couple of times I was home, I was extremely sleepy. And so I ended up like not getting on the game, not streaming, nothing. I was just taking my butt to bed. And then I stayed the night over Kiera's, and now here we are. Back in my environment, back in my element. Here with my laptop, my microphone, my little bit of lighting, and everything that I love. And we're going to talk about Black Lightning. I think this is actually my favorite season. I'll say this is my favorite season of Black Lightning. You want to open up and let me know what your thoughts are and give your rating, your preliminary
Um,
rating?
I thought this was a really good season. I thought the whole way through, the action was solid. The
Mm-hmm.
choreography was great.
Yep.
The music choice was great. Um, I think it left off on a pretty good note. Um, it wasn't like too big of a cliffhanger.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there were some very emotional scenes here too. Um,
I
I
felt like
like the
season
chemistry between a
three.
lot of the
Like
characters.
season three was the only finale that truly felt like kind of the ending of a chapter.
Mhm.
Whereas season one, season two, and season three all felt like one big story that seemed to just kind of come to an end to some degree with season three. And I think that's why season four feels like not disconnected from the first three seasons, but it just doesn't feel so dependent on continuing the events and the stories of the previous seasons as like I mean one, two, and three are all very much connected. And season
Mhm.
four feels like it's kind of starting off fresh, right? So I
Mhm.
definitely kind of like that. But my bad. Go ahead.
I like the chemistry between a lot of the characters,
Mm-hmm.
and I like the character developments.
Yeah.
And honestly, 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I definitely give it a 10 out of 10 also. I think one of the things that this season does best, I know there's just a lot going on, so I kind of want to use this particular session to really just talk about the characters and the character relationships that we see throughout the season. Because I feel like that is one of the biggest strengths of this season. You know, what's his name? Jefferson's relationship with the city, his relationship with who's the bald guy's name with the glasses?
Gamby?
No, bald with the
Oh,
glasses,
Odell.
the black guy.
Odell. Adrian Odell.
Odell's relationship with Jefferson, his relationship with his daughters and his wife, and then we have Khalil in the mix, and the dichotomy of his kind of like they're doing like kind of a little Jackal Mr. Hyde spin slash multiple
Yeah.
personality disorder type thing. And then there's even a little bit of a rift, a little bit more of an intense rift between Jin and Anissa. You know, they're not totally on the same page. And then you have Anissa's relationship with, gosh,
Liz.
grace. And so I think this whole season is a little bit less about like just saving everybody, a little bit less about, just a bunch of heroes. And it's just more about these relationships and continuing to build on these relationships and challenge these relationships over the course of, I think, what, 15 episodes in this season?
16.
16 episodes this season. So definitely. I mean, what's kind of the first? What's the first thing that kind of jumps out to you that you enjoyed in regards to this season?
I like Khalil. I like that story arc. I thought it was very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was also something really new.
Yes.
Um, I've never seen them really do that in any of the CW shows, like to that degree,
Mm-hmm.
particularly. Like
Yeah.
specifically the part where he gets locked in his head and he's trying to get out, and he has
Yes.
to like fight himself in a way.
Yep. Exactly.
And it's like a metaphor, like you're fighting the part of your side that says,
Mm-hmm.
hey, you can't do this. You need me, the bad side, to be better or something like that.
Yes.
It's basically him fighting his darkness.
Yeah, absolutely, and that is just a really interesting and like exciting way for them to put that. We talk about these different literary struggles like man versus self, man versus his environment, and all those different things. And so them finding an interesting and clever way to um, to show that, right,
Hmm.
to show that Tobias had this element of programming that they were putting into his head, right? But then also it's like, yeah, you may be doing these things to manipulate me, but I have my own way.
Tobias?
Was it Tobias or was it the who was doing the programming?
Wasn't it Odell?
I think it was Odell. And I
Yeah, it was
felt like,
Odell.
and I didn't feel right when it came out of my mouth, but you know, I just kept going with it. And I
Yeah.
was like, man, you'll correct me if I'm wrong. But, and so I thought that was really interesting. And man, he, Odell really takes it too far, man.
See, here's the thing. We talked about last episode. We talked about how you said Tobias was bad, and then you said Odell's a whole nother level. See,
Yeah,
Tobias, when he goes to
yeah.
see his mom, he's like, how'd you
Mm-hmm.
raise such a stupid kid, and just leaves.
Mm-hmm.
But Odell is like, kill your mom.
And and I didn't think that they would do it. There's just a lot of things that this show does that
Hmm.
I don't expect them to go there, you know? And that's one of those things I was like, okay, they're gonna find a way to save her, they're gonna find a way to he's gonna overpower it. That's his mom. No, he didn't do anything. He killed her. Killed his mom. And
Straight
it
up.
and it's just like, man, the level of evil, but also with Odell, it's so weird because there's also this not necessarily honor, but not honor, but more so honesty, right? I don't think there's a single moment in the show where he lied to somebody, right? Like if he said he was going to do something, he did it. If he said that this was going to be, a reward, or if he said, like, if he gave his word, he usually stands by it. And that's typically the nature of a good character. But with Odell, it's just like, man, he's just so crazy. And so I definitely think the way they used man, and I think I don't know his name off the top of my head, but the actor that plays Khalil, I think he did a really good job in this role. I've seen him in a couple of different things. He's actually on Riverdale too. Um, I like his performance on Riverdale. But like for him to be able to kind of become these different people, right, and show his ruthlessness and show like they've basically turned him into this assassin, which is why I'm actually pretty excited for this show that they're doing for him as a spinoff.
Yeah.
But I liked how they showed like, okay, we've programmed this guy to have all these different abilities, all these different skills, and they've effectively made a whole new personality, right? As we were talking about, and he kind of struggles with that, and they go head to head and against each other over the course of the season. And I'd honestly say that that's probably one of my favorite aspects of that season.
Yeah, for sure. Jordan Calloway is the main
Jordan
guy.
Calloway, yep, that's his name.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um, uh, so I know there's this soldier guy that was basically he was just running around, taking things over. I mean, the ASA was just basically taking over the entire city of Freeland.
mm-hmm.
And what's his, I don't remember his name, but I think they gave him like metahuman powers. Um, and
Oh,
there's one
yes.
scene where he talks to Jefferson. He's like, "Stand back, you meta," and he's like, "Why does that sound like an insult coming out of your mouth?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
I,
it's because it is an insult.
yeah.
Like,
And he was giving he and that's another thing, the relationship between this soldier, right, this martial law lieutenant, that they basically bring in to enforce martial law upon the city of Freeland. And then you have
mhm,
Jefferson's best friend, the police captain,
Henderson.
Henderson. You have him saying, "Man, this is my city. I've been taking care of these people for years," and his refusal to back down in a sense from this guy, right? To the point where, despite the fact that he really doesn't like just the dynamic of Jefferson, he still hasn't got over the fact that Jefferson has been Black Lightning all this time and didn't tell him. But he's willing to put all that aside and say, look, we got to work together. We've been
Mhm.
trying to do things the right. And I think, honestly, I think that this shows one of the biggest flaws of Jefferson, right? The fact that he's so set, and it's a little bit of foreshadowing for season 4, but he's so set on doing everything the perfect right
Mhm.
way, right? And I think the people of Freeland suffered in season 3 because of that, right? Until he got to a point where he could get with Henderson, and him and Henderson can work together and say, look, this is what we got to do. We're gonna have to get our hands dirty when it comes to this stuff, you know. And so I think that was also an interesting relationship to kind of see Henderson and Jefferson get a little bit of that love back between them.
Yeah, for sure. I like how he like brought people into the fold, like Two
Yes,
Bits.
yes,
He's like, "Oh, you're doing this? Well, you're under arrest." He's like, "Man, come on." And then he brings him there and he's like, "Oh, you're not under arrest. We want you to join the resistance." He's like, "Heck yeah, let's do it."
yes,
And it's kind of cool.
and it goes to show another thing. I think, doesn't Henderson start working closely with Blackbird before he really
Oh
starts
yeah,
working with?
very
And I
close.
thought that
Well,
was interesting too.
Agent the Reverend works more closely with Blackbird because remember the Reverend's talking bad on Henderson. He's like, "You've given up on this city. You're
Mm,
working with them,"
yeah,
and then eventually he brings him in the fold. He's like, "Look,
yeah,
I'm trying to save this city," and the Reverend's
yes,
like, "All right, bet, let's do this."
yes. And I just thought that
And
that was, man, I think this show better than any other show, even better than Arrow, does a really good job of showing the dynamics of, there's multiple forms of justice. There's
yeah,
not just your justice and your justice. I mean, it's not like everything's not just Black Lightning's version of justice. Black
yeah,
Lightning, Henderson, and Thunder slash Blackbird, they all had their own different versions of justice, and the Reverend. uh, some of them had better overlap. Henderson's and Blackbirds and the Reverends, they all had a little bit more of an overlap, so it was easier for them to work together. Whereas Jefferson was just kind of an outlier for a little while, and I just think
yeah,
that's just something that you really like to see. I think what happens is it's really easy to put people in a situation where you say, okay, well, who's right, who's wrong? Okay, well, I'm on the side of good. But when you have this Venn diagram, this triple Venn diagram of three different people who are both right, both wrong, and then they all have this area where they kind of blend together. That's great storytelling. I really enjoyed it throughout the season.
Yeah,
Excuse
a
me.
good example of what happened is there's an episode where they put a bomb on a truck. I think it's to break into the ASA or do something,
Hmm.
and then Black Lightning disables it, and they're like, "What the heck?"
Yeah,
And then the Reverend is like, "You're not on our side. You're with them." He's like, "I'm not with them, but this isn't the right way to go about it." And then him and Blackbird clash. Like,
yeah,
this is justice.
yes,
We have to fight dirty. They're fighting dirty. We have to fight dirty back. He's like, "No, we
hmm,
can't do that. We have to be better than them."
yes,
Better than them?
yes.
Are
It's
they going to try to be better than us? Be the good? No.
nope, not one bit. And so I definitely think that this season does just a really really good job. And I think I
Yeah.
lost my notes. Um,
Um, I like Jennifer in this season. I really liked her arc with Odell. I thought it was interesting how they like kind of worked together. Um,
but see, they really working together though? I mean,
no,
they
but
were, but it's just like this. I mean, Odell is
used her.
yes, and
Yeah, he
he's such
did.
a genius when it comes to this type of stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's one thing you have to give up. He is genius level, right? And so he just looks at a situation and says, "This is actually the most powerful member of the family, but she's the weakest and the most easily manipulated, right?"
Hmm.
And so he just found ways to get to her specifically, play up on her emotions. She didn't even argue most of the time, right?
She
I
didn't.
don't think
No,
he
she's
had to
like,
tell her anything twice. He understood her from watching her all this time, played against her emotions, and basically got what he wanted, you know?
and
And
there's this scene where, oh, sorry, I didn't
I
mean to cut
think
you
that's
off.
the main reason why um, he wasn't so pressed about keeping Jefferson,
Mm.
in the facility because he's like, you know what? I can actually let Jefferson go because if I can manipulate and get to his daughter who's more powerful, I can get a lot more done, right? And so I think that's kind of the route he
Um,
decided to go.
it actually takes a toll on her
Yeah.
because he does. You said he doesn't lie to her. He did actually lie because he said when she attacks the data farm in the episode, I think it was,
Ah,
he says that there was nobody there. That it was just apparently there were.
really?
Apparently there were people. Yeah. So
But
she killed
but
people, innocent people.
I thought he didn't know.
Maybe he didn't,
I thought it
but I
was
mean,
revealed that like he was like, "Oh damn, I didn't like yeah, I told you to do that, but there are people in there, but I didn't know there were people in there." I don't know, maybe. Honestly, I
I
wouldn't
don't
put it
know.
past
It
him
just
to.
seems like with his kind of character, like how evil he is, he like I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. I think you're
Probably
right. I
paranoid.
think he did. I think that was one where he withheld, like intentionally withheld information relative to the truth, which is no different from lying. So,
Yep.
yeah,
Basically, yeah. Um, let's see. I like Grace and Anissa's connection a lot.
I don't.
I think they're a good couple. You
I
don't?
don't. And the reason why
Oh,
I don't is because I don't feel like a lot of time was spent really building that relationship, right? To me, throughout the course of the two seasons that they really focus on it, it just seemed like I'm different, you're different, and so for that reason, I feel like we should love each other. Like I don't think that that was planted and flowered. I mean, planted and watered, the way a lot of other relationships have been across the Arrowverse and just across superhero mediums in general. And so for me, and then they also try to play Anissa as kind of this player, you know. We've
yeah,
seen
because
her,
she's
and
with that
yeah, she's with that reporter.
the Jamila, that's her name.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so it's hard for me to really connect with what you're trying to do emotionally with Grace when anytime Grace is not there, you're dealing with another woman, right?
Yeah,
And
that's a good
so,
point.
it, so that's kind of my only thing. I would have rather them spent more time just kind of focusing on that relationship. I never understood why they liked each other. Like, what is it? What do you love her for? Right? Just because she understands you, just because she, accepts you, even though she, sees you like y'all spend a whole lot of time running from each other and hiding things from each other. So it was just one of those relationships that I wouldn't oppose to it, but as
I think
much
it's more or less.
go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to-
Go ahead.
I
Go
think it's
ahead.
more or less that they can see past each other's flaws.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people
Yeah.
in that season are like, "Oh, you're a meta, lock him up."
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
they
Definitely.
see past each other's flaws, and not just their metahuman flaws, but their past.
Yeah.
You know, they connect. They realize they've both been through a lot. You
Yeah.
know, and they kind of connect on that a little bit. I think.
So
Um,
let's pull back a little bit and let's talk about Tobias's role in this
oh
season.
my God, yeah.
So they're experimenting and messing with Tobias, and I think what's happening is don't they realize that they need Tobias's blood or something as the stabilizer?
His bone
What did,
marrow.
okay, his bone marrow is the stabilizer.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it basically because he was one of the first experiments, not the first, but he was one of the experiments with green light. That's how he stays young.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, his uh his serum or whatever.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
but actually, you did remind me uh during Tobias's arc,
Mm-hmm.
there's another character death that is actually really really hard. Like it's rough, man, because it's just so dark. Like
Yeah.
so Dell wants to know where the briefcase is. So remember the
Oh
kid who
yeah.
tells the truth? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he uses him to tell him, and then Tobias tells him something that he shouldn't have known, and Odell's like, "You gotta die," and just kills him.
Yeah. Oh man, that was
Awesome.
really unfortunate too. That was just
Uh,
tough.
that was
Odell is
that was
just
he's bad.
he's just a crazy guy. We also see that since man, we saw another vulnerable part. I think this was a really big season for Tobias because we got to see a vulnerable part of Tobias. Not necessarily not weakness, but just vulnerability, right?
Hmm.
And I think that was excellent to see that that you can put a little bit of fear in this guy's heart, especially when he feels helpless and hopeless. Yeah.
Because without the serum, he's aging
Yes.
significantly.
Yes. Accelerated aging, like off
Hmm.
top. You know.
Yeah.
And so,
Um, I do like his arc between Lin and them. I think it's interesting because, he eventually finds out. He's like, wait a second. He's always saving the Pierce girls. You're always around him. That's your
mm-hmm.
husband.
Yep.
Yeah. And
Yep.
then Lin she never really is like, oh, yeah, that's true. She's just kind of like quiet,
Yeah.
kind of just like tries to change the topic. But
She
she knows.
allows her emotions to get the best of her like
She
way too much.
does.
I don't think there's
And
any
then she gets the
character.
freaking,
Go ahead.
well, actually, hang on. You keep going.
I don't think
That's
there's
a side
yeah,
point.
yeah. I don't think there's any character who is more easily manipulated by emotions than Lynn Pierce.
Hmm.
Like it's so easy to get under her skin. It's so easy to trigger the reaction that you
Yes.
want out of her. Like not just with I mean, I think Tobias is a classic narcissistic manipulator, and so it's easier for him to do it to certain people. But anyone can do this with Lynn, and so
Hmm.
it's just kind of frustrating that she's kind of a hypocritical character. I don't hate the character,
Hmm.
but a lot of the things that she preaches against, like are just like just laid right out in the open. It's like, Lynn, you just did this thing that you are criticizing Jefferson for, that you're criticizing Anissa for, that you're criticizing
Jen.
Jen for. Like, what are you doing? You're not setting a good example. And honestly, there is nothing in this series. There's literally nothing in this series that informs me that their original separation. I don't know if they said they got a divorce, if they had just been separated, but I genuinely don't believe that it was Jefferson's fault. Like,
I mean,
I
no. I
don't
mean,
believe that. Like, I know that a lot of things happen off screen, like before the timeline of the series starts. But I mean, based on everything that we've learned about Lynn for the past 3 years, I feel like it was her. So I don't know.
um, so what I wanted to touch on is I was gonna say, when you said her emotions get the best of her,
Hmm.
this wasn't particularly just her emotions. This was once more, no surprise to anybody,
Hmm.
Odell, uh,
Yeah.
using Lynn. They put a thing in like her room. It says "Take green light, take green light, take green light," and then eventually she takes green light,
Yeah.
and she starts getting addicted to it.
Yes.
And like you see her eyes are like, kind of like she hasn't looks like she hasn't slept in weeks.
Yes. Yes.
And Jefferson's just like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And then she goes off on him and just she's
Hmm.
mean to him.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm
It's just a
sorry for
really
caring.
bad combination of like just
Hmm.
shit. She's already easily manipulated. Now you put her on this addictive drug that makes you more susceptible to manipulation in its entirety. And so it's just tough. And then she also feels powerless, right? She also feels powerless. So when she starts to realize, oh, I can create these serums in which I can give people short bursts of abilities in order to make herself relevant. Like, she starts wanting to utilize that as well and just kind of be a part of everything that's going on. And so, I
Hmm.
just think it's a really she got the short end of the stick. It's not everything is her fault, but I do feel like she just got the perfectly worst combination of events leading to her becoming addicted and all those different things. So yeah.
I did want to bring up Tavon.
Mm-hmm.
He's like the cool kid. He's he seems like the straight A student, and
Yeah.
he's just he's a good kid. And
Yeah.
somebody, I think somebody like calls him a metahuman, and they
Mm-hmm.
and they take him out of school, but he's not actually a metahuman.
Yes.
So somebody like framed him in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So she tries to get him out, and they're like, well, did we confirm that he's not a metahuman, so he can come back? So they try to bring him back, and then Blackbird runs into Painkiller, and
Yeah.
he kills Tavon, and it's
Yeah.
really rough because
Mm-hmm.
Jefferson said, we're gonna get your kid back. All right,
Yep.
let's get him back here, and
Yep. Man,
he
Freeland is just out of whack this whole season. Like,
Freedom
it's
is a
just
war zone.
like it is. Yeah. It's
Uh-huh.
horrible.
The
Um,
battlefield.
yeah, it's a literal
Um,
battlefield. Nobody's safe. Um, like,
I
man,
think
it's crazy.
I think the next thing we should touch on is some of the meta kids. Brandon and Jen's connection was really interesting. I kind of liked how the two played off on each other a little bit.
Who?
Jen and Brandon, remember the guy who
Oh
can control
yes.
the earth?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and then Dr. Jace killed his mom, so he has a whole vendetta
Yes.
thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Um,
And I like that their powers kind of neutralized each other in a way.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, it's like a positive negative,
And a lot of
or
shows were doing that over the past couple of years. We had Cloak and Dagger, where when those
Mm.
two characters would touch each other, like there would be a big moment that would happen. I think that was also the case on and
Firestorm, right?
no, not
No.
Firestorm. There was another show. I want to say it was Marvel's Runaways, where two characters that
Mm.
had special abilities, if they touched each other, um, something really big would happen. And so I feel like there was a lot of shows kind of experimenting with these like offsetting powers type thing, and so I thought it was really cool. I didn't like that. I didn't like that actor. I didn't think he was that great.
I
Uh,
thought he was okay.
I thought he was just passable. I didn't hate him. I thought he was passable for that role, and so I was fine with that. And I like that he had a man. I felt for him. You know,
Hmm.
like if something happened to my mom and I had some superpowers and I knew some people were involved, man, there's nothing you could do. No matter how much respect I have for you, there's nothing you could do. Like you're not gonna stop me from getting my revenge, and trying to talk to me about how revenge is not the way. It's not the way, cause I'm gonna do what I want, you know. And so
Hmm.
I definitely vibed with him. Um,
Um, let's see. So for a while, Agent Odell, there's an episode where the 100 Club, because that's where they have everything, set up.
mm-hmm.
And Big Showdown goes like, what's that guy? I don't remember his name, but he's kind of like Nightcrawler a little bit. Like he can view a place and then he can like portal in and portal out,
Mm,
kind of like that. But what's his name? Gets killed, or not killed, shot. Agent O'Dill gets shot, and then he's like
yes.
off the show for a little bit, and
Yep.
then Major Sarah Gray takes over. She's like his second
Mm-hmm.
in command,
Mm-hmm.
basically.
Yes.
Um, and then there's this other guy, this soldier, and throughout like the episodes, like they don't focus too much on him as a character, but you
Yeah.
see him and you see him struggling. He's like, "Look, is this the right thing to be doing?
Mm-hmm.
I
Yep.
don't think I don't like this." And then eventually, him and Lynn start working together. They work together to take Tobias out of the facility,
Mm-hmm.
and he starts talking smack to Lynn, and I think he tries to escape or something, and she's like, "Oh, do you think I wasn't gonna assume that you would do that?" And she like knocks him out. He's just
Yeah.
knocked unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that was interesting.
So let's kind of transition into the big plot point of the season, which is basically kind of the same plot. Like if anyone watches Young Justice, this is kind of the same plot point of Young Justice, which is basically metahuman trafficking,
Hmm.
gathering metahumans together for war, right? And so that is what the ASA has basically been preparing for, right? They weren't necessarily going about it the right way, but the Markovians were getting together metahumans for
Hmm.
war, right?
Hmm.
And so at this point, they decided like, okay, I think what happens is Agent Odell finally just comes clean, like totally clean with Jefferson and his family, and he was like, look, man, this is what's going on. This whole city will be killed, and America will be just in a bad way if you guys don't help us, right? And so that's when everyone just starts gearing up for this kind of metahuman war led by this other soldier um, named Gravedigger, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
He's just kind of this legendary. I think they were saying that he's the original metahuman,
He
right?
was the first metahuman ever. He was
Yeah.
like in World War II.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
He's yeah.
And so I think what happens is he has two abilities, right? He has a primary ability to of like you're susceptible to whatever he tells you to do, right?
Hmm.
Like if he tells you to do something, and I think if he's looking you in your eye, you'll do it. And I think his secondary ability is the ability to take up on someone else's ability, right? Doesn't he?
Yes. But
Um,
no, 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 no. He gains that ability, remember? Because Lynn is working on like a merging thing
mm-hmm.
and she uses it against him and he's like, "Oh." Well, thank you for making that. I really appreciate that.
Okay. And
Yeah.
so, we see a little bit of his backstory. I think he might get a whole episode. Does he get a whole episode of a backstory?
He gets a pretty clean backstory. Yeah, it
Okay.
goes on for a little
And
bit.
so basically, you find out that he, was just this really dominant soldier back in, I think it was either World War II or World War One.
It was one of the
Um,
World Wars.
and I think like one of his issues was like he had a big problem with America, right? Because I think he was fighting on the American side, and somehow America hold him over, obviously because he's black. So they hold him over in some way, and so I think him teaming up with the Markovians is kind of like him getting his revenge. But there's
He
also,
also got bullied a lot.
oh, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. He also got bullied a lot, and I feel like, but he also has like a sense of justice about him too, right?
Hmm.
As you're watching him, he doesn't seem totally evil. And I think the best plot point to come out of this season is the fact that it wasn't a coincidence that when the ASA were going and experimenting on people with green light, that like Black Lightning was able to get metahuman abilities with no downside. And
Because
yeah, and they reveal. Well, you can say it because I've been talking.
um because that's his great grandfather.
Yep. So basically, he has a relative that is one of the original metahumans, and
Hmm.
I mean, what long story not long story short, but just to summarize, I guess the last few episodes, um, they basically launch an attack. They launch an attack on one of the Mark. Oh, wait. There's
You're skipping
two.
over a little bit.
There's two reasons why they launched the attack. One, because because of the ASA, but two, they have Lynn, don't they?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
They have to go get Lynn, and there's actually there's a really good scene between him, Black Lightning, and Tobias.
Hmm.
They're fighting, and then I think there's some Markovians, I believe, show up, and then Tobias just gets away. Um,
Hmm.
but they hash it out a little bit, and that was
Yeah.
you
And
know.
so what happens is they basically just get a task force together.
Hmm.
Um, and it consists of Black Lightning. I think Thunder's there. I think they leave Jet at home, don't they? No, they don't leave Jet at home. So it's Black
No,
Lightning.
no, she's not here. She's with Brandon because he goes after Dr. Jace, obviously.
Okay.
Um,
Well,
and then
basically, but they had pod kids that they were able to stabilize to some degree. And so Black Lightning, and just a bunch of others, they decide, okay, we're going to Markovia. We're gonna go get my wife. We're gonna shut shit down, and that'll be it. And that's basically what they do. They go out there. They go to war. The Black Light, the quote unquote heroes, they prevail in a sense, and then um,
um,
it's kind of like a two rounder. The
hmm.
heroes win the first round. I think they come back to America, and then Gravedigger comes to America, and they all fight again, right? And that's when,
Freeland.
yeah, Freeland. Um, and so,
Um,
go ahead. Sorry.
there's also a really cool scene with
Mm-hmm.
they do bring Painkiller, and oh man, he's just whooping everybody,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really cool.
Yeah.
Because he knows like pretty much everything, all the martial arts, all the
Yep.
fighting,
Yep. He
and
knows
it's
that.
crazy,
Mm-hmm.
so cool. Um, and they bring a new character in, TC. He can
Yes. He's a
communicate with
telepath. I
troops.
mean, not a telepath. He's a technopath.
Yeah, yeah,
He can communicate with the spirit of
for technology.
technology. Yep, which
Yeah,
I think is
and
really cool. I wouldn't mind having an act. I wouldn't mind if like they put him on the spinoff. Like that's an interesting character.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then another big plot point is Lala and Eve going at it for territory.
Mm,
Um,
yeah,
because Lady Eve shows back up, and then Lala's like,
yeah,
"She's alive?
mm-hmm,
Bet, let's get her territory."
yeah,
Um, and this also leads to a really cool scene. So I guess we can get into the war with Freeland. Um,
yeah,
I think it was ASA or the Markovians, they're attacking, right?
yep,
And then Lala just shows up and they just take them all down together. And
mm-hmm.
you see Henderson and Lala, they're like, all right, cool. Thanks for the help. He's like,
I love
no.
that. I love that.
Yeah, me
I love that
too.
it was like it was basically everybody. Everybody comes back to Freeland, right? All
Mm-hmm.
these different factions that have been fighting for control of Freeland, they basically have to say, okay, it's time to stand our ground.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants to fight over territory. Well, we need some territory to fight over. Like,
Right.
we all got to work together and stand our ground for our city. And that's what they do. I love that.
Because they're going to pull an Avengers. They're going
Mm-hmm.
to destroy the city
Yep.
if it's not contained. And another thing I wanted to touch on is to the outside world, they think there's like a pandemic in
Yeah.
Freeland. They
Yep.
don't know about the metahuman trafficking, the war. They don't know any of that stuff.
Yep.
Nobody knows.
And I think what happens is we've seen this a few times, but I think for whatever reason, does um do, does the Secretary of Defense send a nuclear bomb to hit Freeland?
I don't think so. No, no,
What
no,
am I
no,
getting that
no.
from? I guess I'm thinking of season 4 of Arrow.
Oh man.
Um,
Well, that
okay,
was that was
well,
Arrow.
never mind. Um, I thought there
um,
was but all in all, basically, it was Gravedigger and some more of his people versus Black Lightning and his people, and I feel like they kind of it was kind of weird because everything that we learned about Gravedigger made you feel like he was supposed to be like super OP, but what's his name? Jefferson was able to hang with him pretty well,
yeah.
and ultimately, win that
Jennifer
fight.
gets her ass whooped though.
Yeah, and that's what I love. Like I think to me that's good writing, right? Because yeah, you may be the most powerful, you may have the most potent ability, but your inexperience pretty much almost got you killed. You know
And
what I
she gets a
mean?
little cocky too. She
Yeah,
gets a little bit cocky. She's like, I could take him on. Look, I'm super powered.
yeah,
No.
and that's the thing, and that's like, and I think that is just that is an excellent way to write a young character like that. Young character, get some abilities, get some power beyond your wildest dreams, and now you think you're God in a sense. And
Yeah.
you feel
Um,
like, oh yeah, I'm a little bit more powerful than my dad. I'm the shit. So it's a lot more difficult to tell you, hey, it's time to sit your ass down before you get yourself killed.
basically, yeah.
Yep.
Um, and there's a scene where I believe Jefferson's kind of like tell him like, "Hey, I'm your grandson," and he's like, "Yeah, that's ridiculous. No."
Mm,
And then he tells him some facts. He's like, "Wait a minute. No, nobody could possibly know that."
hmm
Okay,
I thought it was also
okay, I
kind
see
of
what you're saying.
corny how they found out all that information too. It was kind of corny. It's like kind of the information just kind of fell into their lap.
It was the briefcase. It was you know, they looked it up and like,
But the fact that
yeah.
she randomly tested his DNA against Jefferson's,
Oh yeah,
that was just kind of
yeah.
weird. That information just kind of fell
I
into their lap.
guess.
But I mean, I guess there's no other way to really bring about something like that. So all in all, I thought it was
So
okay.
yeah.
What are we
I
missing?
wanna take it back to Jennifer's story arc.
Mm-hmm.
There's an episode. This takes place before Crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that it basically her in her other Earths.
Yeah.
You got like evil Jennifer. You got uh what's there's another Jennifer, and then you just got regular Jennifer.
Yeah.
And the evil Jennifer is evil.
Mm-hmm.
This is basically her listening to Odell and doing everything he said without
Yep.
any moral thought process at all. Like
And
literally,
I think there was like a
she
little
kills
flashback.
Anissa,
Yes.
she kills Lynn, and she kills her dad.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then in another flashback, or the other Earth, everyone's having dinner together. You know, it's Christmas, everyone's happy, yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
Odell shows up, and he just kills Black Lightning,
Yeah.
kills Jefferson,
Yep.
cold blood, and just leaves.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're kind of hashing it out. And at this point, she's like kind of, I don't know, she's kind of like disappeared in a way, but
Yeah.
she's still there. And
Yeah.
also in this time, this isn't super important, but it's kind of weird, the element, because everything's really happy before then. You know, Grace and Anissa
Mm-hmm.
announce they're getting married, everyone's
Yep.
celebrating,
Yep.
and then that just how it happens out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And then eventually there's this like red light in the sky, and you see Odell. You see Odell and Major Gray. He's like, "Oh no, this is not good."
Yeah. Yeah.
Even you see him scared a little bit.
Yep.
It's like, what is going on? And we will talk more about that in our crossover Arrowverse episodes.
Yeah.
Um,
We're basically our plan is to honestly, I genuinely think by the end of this month we can be fully caught up on Arrowverse stuff. Like if we keep up doing our two a week,
mhm.
um, I think the Flash is one that we're a little bit further behind on. But I think by the end of this month, or at least early next month, we could be at a point where we've kind of discussed all the seasons, and then we could do like a week where our first, like our two episodes for the week will be covering maybe the first few crossovers and then the last few crossovers and how they all kind of relate to an extent. And so
Yeah,
I'm pretty
certainly.
excited. I'm pretty excited for that. I think that'll be fun.
Um,
What
I
what are
think
we missing for the last bit of this season?
we have to touch on one of the most heartbreaking, hard scenes of the season, and that is Henderson's sacrifice.
Oh yeah,
That hit me, man.
yeah.
I actually teared up a little bit. I'm not
It's
gonna
tough.
lie.
It's tough when you see that type of stuff because it's like it's always the person that did everything right. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Lynn has rights and wrongs that she done. Jen has rights and wrongs that she does. Lynn has what's her name?
Anissa.
Anissa, Black
Mm-hmm.
Lightning. Everybody has their things that they've done right and that they've done wrong, and that they just got to live with certain things. Like they all have that. And then there's guys like Jefferson, you know, that have just
Henderson.
tried to do. I mean, yeah, Henderson, who have just tried to do everything the right way as best as they can, and even when they're not 100% right, they're like 98%.
Mm.
You know, it's always that character that ends up having to sacrifice themselves or ends up uh just just getting the
And
unfortunate end of the of the fatal
it's
stick, you know.
it's so it's so much like it's so rough because you've been with him since season one.
Yep.
You know this character, you know how he is. He's a good person, and you know him and Jefferson, they're like brothers.
And they're
They
not and honestly they're really not on the same page. Like
they
even
weren't,
up
no.
until that moment they weren't on the same page. They were getting there, but they weren't on the
They were
same
getting there,
page.
yeah. Exactly.
And so but the only thing that I would say about this is I feel like his death, the emotions behind his death were strong, but I feel like the death itself was a little anticlimactic. um I feel like they could have, like, I get that it's supposed to come out of nowhere, but even the
Yeah.
building of it just it seemed to fall flat. What made that moment good was his interaction with Jefferson. Not
Hmm.
necessarily the event of his death. I think they could have bought into the actual event itself a little bit more. But yeah, that's just and I'm glad you brought that up because that enforces a lot of season 4 and how and Jefferson's kind of
It
psyche and his
does.
mentality and everything in season 4. And so I think
Um,
maybe sometime next week or the week after, we can kind of just do like a quicker, maybe like a little 15-minute video discussing like those few episodes, and then we could kind of probably do content like that for the seasons that are current.
yeah, I think that's a pretty good idea. So a little bit more to touch. So after the city, they go to the ASA base. I think Odell, he hightails it out of there. He's gone.
Hmm.
He's like, see ya.
Are you
Um,
sure there was no nuclear bomb type thing?
Duh, that's what I was about to say. That's what
Okay.
I'm getting to it.
Thank you.
So, um, so Grace gets she tries to fight Gravedigger, gets whooped.
Walked.
Pretty much anybody who tries to fight him gets whooped
Hmm.
in basic uh saying.
Yeah.
But she goes into a coma, and more on that for season 4. And then what's it called? They blow up the ASA base, or yeah,
Hmm.
there's kind of like a big explosion. Everybody gets out, but
Mm.
Gravedigger is still left in there, and you know they
Oh.
show at the end of the season. He's like, "Yo, what's up? You guys really think that that was gonna? Come on."
But we also got to talk about that, like um Jefferson did not want to leave Gravedigger and to explode.
He didn't. No,
He like
because
he
he's a good
was,
person.
yeah, he was like, no, there's nothing wrong, like he's been through so much, we need to save
Yeah,
him. He was trying to do the right thing, especially since it's his great grandfather. And so
right.
I think that's an important thing to touch on, the fact that like Jefferson wanted to do the right thing, he wanted to save him, but at the same time it's like, my family, this is everything that's important to me, like, you
Yeah.
know it's maybe too big of a sacrifice if I can't get him out. And so I assume that we're gonna see Gravedigger again
Yeah.
this season.
I
So
mean, for sure, for sure. And then Tobias, he's at one of the ASA guys, or I think it was a Markovian. He was a Markovian's. Uh, um, I think he kills her. He kills her son, the Markovian guy, and then he's like having dinner, and he's looking at the TV, and it's kind of like a setup for like him coming back to Freeland. He's like, "I'm gonna go
mm-hmm.
back to Freeland."
Yep.
But this is the scene that closes it out. They're at it feels like the United Nations or something like that. Or
Mm-hmm.
not United Nations, but they're in like
Just some place like that.
some place like that, yeah. And they're like she's like, we didn't know that was happening. Agent Odell is now under arrest. He's in a facility.
Hmm.
Um, so they put Odell away, and the ASA, you know, everybody knows at that point what they were doing.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was bad,
Hmm.
and it's basically them kind of telling them like they want to try to make things right, you know.
Yes. Hmm.
So, they leave, and I think they go home or something like that. I don't remember.
Yeah, they
But
just
yeah,
leave. It's just some
yeah, they just
closure,
leave.
just a nice,
Yeah,
just a nice element of close. And I think that's also the scene where Gravedigger appears again.
yeah, yeah,
Right.
that's true.
And so I'm
Yeah,
excited to see. They've started this season off a little slow,
very slow,
but
but that's okay.
I like what they're building though here in these
Hmm.
early episodes. So we'll be back to you guys soon. Probably. What do you think? We should
I
wait
think
until
we should do the
episode
first 3 episodes.
the first three.
The first three, then we'll do another three, because there's going to be 13, right? I think there's
Okay,
13.
that's fine. Yeah, let's do it like that.
And
Okay.
then for the last few, we'll do four.
Okay.
Um, I think.
That's cool. All right, great. Well, this has been an excellent uh, topic of discussion this time around. If you like the video, like it. If you think someone else might like it, share it. And if you want to see more, we really hope that you subscribe, and we'll see you next time.